friends, Kao here, and welcome back to my channel. If you've watched my previous Pokemon videos, y'all have probably heard me talking about building a Lost Zone Giratina deck, and well, I have done exactly that, and I've actually played in a couple of local events with it too. So my partner and I just played in our first Pokemon League challenge, which was a lot of fun. So I thought I would make a short little video just talking about my experience of the League challenge as a new player, how it went for me, and share my deck list with y'all. So before I get into how the League challenge went and all of that, I thought it might be helpful for anyone else who is a new player like me or who is not very familiar with Lost Zone decks in general, to just kind of go over how my deck works really quickly. Feel free to skip this if you already know. There's always timestamps in the description box below so you can jump to whatever parts you're interested in. But I thought this would be helpful to explain so that as I'm talking about how my matches went, it might make a little bit more sense. So the basic premise of Lost Zone decks are you have cards that are trying to put cards into the Lost Zone, and then you have cards that are triggered by a certain amount of cards being in the Lost Zone. So an example would be Comfy lets you take the top 2 cards off of your deck, and you pick one to put in your hand and you put the other in the Lost Zone. So that's a way to start getting cards into the Lost Zone. And then on the other side, we have something like a Cramorant, which allows you to use its attack for free if you have 4 cards in the Lost Zone. So that's kind of the basic premise of the deck. That's the same for most Lost Zone decks. You have different cards that are trying to get things into the Lost Zone, and other cards that are affected by how many cards are in there that usually let you use different attacks for either for free or you can't even attack at all until you have X amount of cards in the Lost Zone, things like that. So with all that said, I'll go ahead and jump into how my experience went with my first Pokemon League challenge. So I'm a new player and I wasn't really sure what to expect. I've played in a weekly event before this at a different store, but wasn't 100% sure what to expect from this. All it said kind of on the website is that it's a more casual, sort of entry-level experience to more competitive events. So my partner and I went to Dragon's Lair here in Austin, and they do, I believe, a league challenge once a month. And it was a pretty good turnout. This one actually had, this is the first time I dealt with the different divisions between juniors, seniors, and masters. There wound up being, I think, between 20 and 25-ish people for the masters division, and that led to about 5 rounds. So across the 5 rounds, I went 2-3, so 2 wins, 3 losses, no ties. Which honestly I was pretty happy with. I think that's pretty good for, my first league challenge, playing against a lot of people who had a lot more experience than I did. So for round 1, I went up against another Lost Zone deck. This one was playing Meowscarada, which I had not really seen before. It had an interesting ability though. This one was a loss. Lost Zone is a hard matchup to play against, especially if you have trouble getting up and running quickly, which is what happened to me. So I had a decision early game. I think it was my first flower selecting off a Comfy. I had 2 cards. I had to pick one and put the other in the Lost Zone. One of them was a Giratina V, I believe, and the other was a Jet Energy. I chose to keep the Giratina V, even though I have 2 more in my deck, and I didn't need it at that point, but really I probably should have kept the Jet Energy because at that time I had no other way of getting my other Comfy into play. I had no other energy, no switches, no escape ropes, nothing. So I wound up really struggling to get things into the Lost Zone and wound up losing, but my opponent was really cool, they were really nice, and it was a good learning experience. So round 2, I went up against a Charizard deck. This one was a win. It was actually a very quick win. My opponent played 3 Charmanders right off the bat on the first turn, and I got lucky with my draws and was able to get my Cramorant out really quickly and just kind of like start KOing them very quickly until the point they had no other Pokemon on their bench. So that was a fun one, went very fast. Round 3 was also a win. I was playing against a Qianpao deck. They also were just having a real tough time with draws, and I have been there. That's one of the biggest struggles that I have had with this deck, but it also seems like kind of just a universal thing. It'll happen to you in any deck. So it was happening to my opponent. I was getting all the good draws, was able to get Lost Zone up and running really quickly, and they weren't really able to evolve anything that they needed to kind of get their setup going. So that one was a win. Round 4, I wound up losing, but it was kind of in an interesting way. So I was playing, I think, a Zoroark toolbox deck is what it's called. Honestly, I'm not super familiar with that deck. I hadn't really seen it at all. I had heard a little bit about Zoroark before, but it was really an interesting mechanic, and it was fun to kind of play against. I wound up thinking that I was gonna win, which is always your mistake, right? I thought I was gonna win this match, thought I had it in the bag, and I made a mistake with how I played my Sableye Lost Mine attack. So I was putting damage counters on my opponent's Pokemon, and I, instead of spreading the damage out and then the next turn taking things out, like knocking them out, I knocked one Pokemon out early, which left me with 2 prizes, which was apparently a fatal mistake. When my opponent's next turn started, they immediately played this Slowbro card I had not seen before, and it won them the game. So this Slowbro has an attack that can only be used if your opponent has exactly 1 prize card remaining, which I did, and it lets you take 2 prize cards, which is how many they had left, and that led them to the win. I wasn't even mad about losing to that. It was just such a cool thing to see happen. Like, I really like seeing the different win conditions other than just, you know, your standard stuff. Because some of the attacks in Pokemon are just really silly, like that one. So it was a really fun matchup to play against. My opponent was really cool, and not mad about losing to a Slowbro, because it was just funny. And round 5, my last round, wound up playing another Charizard deck. This one had Charizard EX. This one was a struggle. This time I got hit with the bad draws. I was just not able to get the Lost Zone up and running at all, and as part of that, that meant I had nothing I could do to stop their Charizards from evolving, which led to my downfall. And so that one was a little tough as the last round, but it was still a fun time, and my opponent was pretty cool too. So overall, it was a great experience. Like I said, I went 2-3, and everyone was super chill and nice, and yeah, it was a good time. It felt very welcoming. Got a prize pack for participating, even though didn't do well enough to earn any like challenge points or anything like that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I could definitely see doing more of those events in the future. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into the deck list that I am currently running. So my deck list is pretty similar to ones you might find online. That's what it was based on. I've made a few modifications here and there, which I'll go through just based on my own experiences playing the deck. I'm still very much a new player, so there's lots of mistakes I make with this, and there's lots to learn and lots I could probably keep tweaking on it, but it's been a lot of fun to play so far. So starting off with Pokemon up here, I'm running a 3x3 of Giratina V and V-Star. I'm gonna make this whole thing all messy after I rearranged it all nicely. And then 4 Comfies, 2 Sableye, and 1 Cramorant. Then we've got a Radiant Greninja, which I mostly use just for the Concealed Cards ability. Then I've got a couple of different Pokemon that aren't really seen too often in these lists. First, I'm running Hawlucha. I'm specifically running this because of its ability, Flying Entry. So when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench during your turn, you may choose 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon and put 1 damage counter on each of them. So I don't run any fighting energy, so I'll never be able to use the actual attack, but the ability is nice for getting a couple extra damage counters on things so that I can take them out with Sableye, Lost Mine. So these two have worked pretty well together. This, I guess on the downside of running Hawlucha is it's difficult to always find this Pokemon when I need it. Sometimes I'd rather just pitch it to the Lost Zone because it's just like coming into the game too late or not against a certain matchup, it's not working well. And it can also be a bench clogger. I don't really have anything to get this off of the bench unless my opponent is gonna take it out, which it's only a single prize Pokemon and I can't attack with it, so it definitely can clog up the bench, but so far I've had some pretty good usage of it in a couple matchups, and I'll keep kind of testing with it. I haven't played it for too long now, so we'll kind of see how it goes. And then the other Pokemon that I'm running is Ditto from the 151 set for its ability Transformative Start. So once during your first turn only, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may search your deck and choose a basic Pokemon you find there, except any Ditto. If you do, discard this Pokemon and all attached cards, and put the chosen Pokemon in its place and shuffle your deck. So this is really helpful for at the start of a game, if I don't have like anything to really get the Pokemon that I'm looking for, which is usually Comfeys to start. So if I like don't have any nest balls, but I happen to pick up this Ditto, I have actually had this in my starting hand a couple of times, and it was really convenient to just be able to play this into the active spot, use the ability, bring in a Comfey or even a Cram, whatever I needed at the time. So it's been pretty good so far, but again, this only works on your first turn, so the rest of the game it's mostly just getting pitched into the Lost Zone. As for the trainer cards, most of this is pretty much standard for what this deck runs across the meta. I've got full 4 of the Colress's experiment. There's a lot of S's in there. That's kind of part of the main engine of this deck. Then we've got 4 Mirage Gates, which these are really helpful for getting energy onto Giratina and Sableye. Then we've got 4 Battle VIP passes. This is really helpful for getting basic Pokemon into play, especially early game, or it has to be early game because you can only use this card during your first turn. I run 4 now. I previously ran 2, but running only 2 made it really hard to get the draws that I needed, so I was rarely finding this when I needed it on my first turn. So I'm running 4 now, and I've seen a lot more consistency with being able to get at least 1 during the first turn. Then we've got 3 Nest Balls, just for getting basic Pokemon onto the bench. So mostly Comfeys to start the game, and then later Sableyes, Giratinas, all that. And then I run 4 switch carts now. I previously was running 4 switches. Switch cart is nice though because it gets a little extra damage heal. When you use it, you can heal 30 damage from the Pokemon you moved onto your bench. So I'm running this now. Previously, I was just running switches because these things are hard to find. Had to buy them online, had to wait for them to come. And then I'm running 2 escape ropes. Both the escape ropes and the switch carts are good for swapping between Comfeys early game, so I can get the Lost Zone set up a lot faster. And this is also nice too for kind of like a forcing your opponent to choose a different Pokemon. Sometimes it doesn't really work out in your favor, sometimes it does. Then I run 2 Boss's Orders. Not much to say about that, that's pretty standard. Very helpful sometimes, especially when you need to switch something in for Cram to hit. Or Giratina as well. And then 2 Super Rods. So this is really helpful for between Radiant Greninja's ability, so you have to discard an energy card to draw 2 cards. So as part of that, Super Rod can help bring back those basic energies or any knocked out Pokemon. So that's really helpful for getting energy and Pokemon back into your deck, especially for the Cram. I only run 1, so it's nice to be able to bring him back from the dead. I'm now running 3 Path to the Peaks. I previously was running Beach Quartz, which was really convenient for if I got it early to be able to swap comfies in and out quickly, even if I wasn't drawing, you know, switch cards or escape ropes or anything. But I found I also was previously running Spiritomb, which locked out Pokemon V abilities. Path to the Peak is a little bit stronger because it can lock out any Pokemon with a rule box. It is easier to take out because you could Lost Vacuum it, you could just play another Stadium on top of it to force it out. But I think having something that can especially help against EX Pokemon is nice. There's still a lot of Pokemon V abilities that are going around, so having this is nice. I do miss the Beach Quartz a little bit just for the ease of being able to have a free retreat cost, which is what that did. But these are nice as well, and I'm running 3 now. I'm also running 1 Pokegear 3.0, so this lets you look at the top 7 cards of your deck. If you find a supporter card there, then you can put it into your hand and shuffle the other cards back into your deck. I added this specifically because I was running into a lot of issues where I just couldn't find my Colresses. And this card is so critical for getting multiple things into the Lost Zone quickly. So I added this to help with this. I do only run 1 though, so the chances of drawing into it aren't super high. But it's just another way to help get the Colresses experiment into the game if I'm not finding it. So next up we have Roxanne and Iona, which this art is just gorgeous. These are just for hand disruption. So that is all the trainer cards. As for energy, I've got 4 jet energies. These are super convenient for, let's say I have 2 comfies in play. I can play it on one on the bench. That pushes it into the active spot. And then I can discard it for the retreat cost and to get something else in, either another comfy or maybe a Cram for an attack. As for basic energies, I don't have them all shown right here because I ran out of room, but I run 4 Psychic Energy, 3 Grass Energy, and only 2 Water Energy. A lot of Giratina decks that I've seen actually run 3 Water and sometimes only 3 Jet, but I like having the extra Jet. So that is my current deck list that I'm running, and I'm sure I'll continue tweaking things as I just play the deck more and get more experience with it. But that is my deck list. Alright, the last thing I wanted to share with y'all for today was just talk a little bit about prize packs, just because I had no idea what to expect opening these, so I thought it would be fun to just share what things I have opened. I already showed 2 things that I opened. I got a Colresses Experiment and a Mirage Gate, which are currently in my deck. But I'll show you the other things that I haven't opened, and just for reference, these are the prize packs for, I guess, the current season, I guess you would call it. So it comes with 6 additional game cards, and they have the Play Pokemon stamp on them. So it's pretty cool. It's fun to see when you're playing opponents, like, when they have the stamped cards, or when you get to add them to your own deck. It's really cool. So like a regular booster pack, they still come with an energy card, but these ones have the Play Pokemon stamp on them still, so I've gotten a couple of those. I think I've opened 4 packs now, 4 prize packs. But you can also get the hollow energies, which is even cooler. From what I can tell, like I said, I really had no idea what to expect to pull from these. Some of the things do seem like they're in the current meta. Others, I'm not really super sure. Haven't seen much of Squabbit, but they all do have the stamps, so it's just a nice addition to your collection, even if you're not playing them. So we got a little Squabbit, a Lunatone, Hisuian Heavy Ball, another Hisuian Heavy Ball, Electric Generator. This is definitely, and the Hisuian Heavy Ball are definitely in the current meta. This is used a lot in the Miraidon deck. Cynthia's Ambition. So it's trainer cards, as well as Pokemon and energy can all be in here. Oh, another Lunatone. I don't even know what I pulled, apparently. Professor's Research. Slowbro, which this art is really cool. Snorlax. Ironically, I pulled this right after I took Snorlax out of my Lost Giratina deck, so that was kind of funny, but it's still cool to have. Diancie. A Dragonite. And then I've got a couple of hollows here, so we've got the Canceling Cologne. This one's really cool, the Hisuian Heavy Ball. Trekking Shoes. I love the background on this. I don't know, it just looks really neat. And then from my most recent prize pack that I opened from the League Challenge, we got this really cool beach court with the, I don't know how well you can see it, but the silver border with like the sparkles. Yeah, you can see it a little better there, so that's really cool. I am sad that I'm not currently playing Beach Court because I would love to put this in my deck, but maybe eventually it'll get back in there. And then I also got the Dodonzo, which I don't think I had pulled this card at all, so just happy to put it in my collection, honestly. But it's also got the sparkly border and the little Tatsugiri, which is like waving. That's so cute. I just like this card. So that is what I got in my prize packs that I've opened from recent events here locally. And then the last thing I'll just end with is that this playmat I'm using, it is from Pokemon Center. I ordered it recently. It came out with the like Pokemon stuff, but wasn't really part of that collection. It was like a separate thing they did with Tinkaton and Graveyard. But I get asked all the time when I'm facing people here locally about this playmat, so I figured I'd throw it in there. If you want it, I'll put a link in the description as well, because it's just really cute. Look at that. Look at that little guy. It is such a cute... Oh, too far. Such a cute playmat. But yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you thought about this video. This is a little bit different from the other Pokemon things that I've shared, a little more focused on, you know, the League Challenge and sharing my deck and stuff. So if you'd like to see more of that stuff, just let me know, and I'll hopefully try to share more in the future. That's going to do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will catch y'all in the next one.